Hey YouTube, Kevin Cleary here with a gear video, really a bit of a discussion video. And in this video, I want to, take EDC essentials to the next level. And I really want to, talk about an EDC system that would make you prepared for anything that life could possibly throw at you. So I've got some really essential EDC items here so that if you're like me and you just want to know that, with a fairly high degree of confidence that whatever goes on in the day, whatever life throws at you, whether it's a zombie apocalypse, a worldwide flood, total breakdown of the grid, whatever the case may be, or even if it's just, buttering some toast or going on a camping trip or on a hike, you're ready for whatever it is. All right. So with all that background in mind, I would like to suggest an EDC system. And I've got some things here that are maybe a little extra, but I totally think worthwhile. All right. So normally we talk about pen, knife, multi-tool, flashlight. All right. And so we've got a pen, we've got a flashlight, we've got a multi-tool here. This is the Gerber, the Bear Grylls one. And then we've got the Cold Steel Swift, which is an exceptional folding knife. I wanted to dwell just for a minute on the knife situation because a knife is one of those things that has a lot of different roles in your EDC. Yeah, it can be for cutting things. It could be for buttering bread. It could be for, a defensive role. Because there's so many things that you need to do with your knife, I would suggest that an alternate knife, a backup knife, is appropriate. So maybe you have one knife that's your primary cutting tool. Maybe you have one knife that you're going to get out in case, you're in one of those situations where the people around you aren't comfortable with knives, or you need to lend a knife to somebody and you don't want them to break your main knife. And then you should probably have a knife that is primarily a defensive tool or a survival tool. So something that can really take a beating and keep performing for you. And so we've got some knives here, and I think this setup right here would be pretty effective in terms of making sure that all of your knife needs are absolutely taken care of. Now, in addition to that, yes, you ought to carry a flashlight. This little baton is a great one. But again, your flashlight needs can vary, and certainly mine do. Sometimes if I'm out working on the car, yeah, this is the perfect flashlight because it's fairly bright and it's got that great magnetic back. However, I don't always want something that big. And so, an alternate tool, an alternate option, I guess, in case I just need, something to read a book at night or something like that, is definitely worthwhile. And in that worst case scenario, a tactical light is also useful. You want to be able to blind your enemies. You want to be able to see the zombies coming. You want something with a little more throw than either one of these two, even though this is maybe not the best thrower out there. Something with just that little bit of extra oomph. And this guy goes up to 1500 lumens, which is definitely going to deliver a lot of what you need when it comes to your light needs and your light performance. And so a flashlight. Now, guys, here's where things get really, really practical. We've got all our knife needs covered. We've basically got the flashlight stuff down pat. I could maybe think of carrying something that would serve as a lantern and maybe think of something that would serve as a better searchlight. And those would be considerable options that you may want to add. However, there's one thing that probably most of you don't think of. If you are a person who is at all physically active, I'm sure you've had this experience. Halfway through the day, maybe at work, you decide to go for a walk with your coworkers, or you go for a bike ride to get a little bit of exercise in. Maybe you have a gym where you work and you actually do a full-on workout. Well, after that experience, you are going to want a change of underwear. Especially this time of year, it's hot, it's humid, the sweat is running down your back, it's soaking your underwear, and no one wants to sit on that wet, soppy, yucky rag all day. And so a change of underwear is an absolute EDC must. Now, this is a pretty good option. It's just a nice plain pair. You could leave this somewhere, and it's going to be around all the time whenever you need it. So really, really perfect setup for an EDC. Now, there's some other things that come up through the day on a regular basis, and a lot of those things can be handled by a multi-tool. So I definitely like a full-size multi-tool to back up whatever mini multi-tool I happen to be carrying at a given day. And this one, you know, one of my favorite things about one of my favorite features, I guess, in a multi-tool is the ability to change out multiple bits, and this one has that. So whenever I carry this, I definitely carry the extra bit kit along with it, and that really expands your ability. I mean, you could almost do car repairs if you have all of this stuff. Now, you're not quite to that point of doing car repairs, but you're pretty close. So what I would think would make this, you know, sort of take your multi-tool setup just that one extra level would be to add a wrench or two to your loadout. All right. You know, wrench, you know, yeah, they're big and bulky if you have them in those giant cases. But if you take all the sockets and all the wrenches out of the case that they ship in and just drop them in a Ziploc bag, they don't take up much room at all. And now you really are set up. I mean, if your car breaks down by the side of the road, listen, you're good to go. You can change a tire, an alternator, a starter out, you know, whatever you need to do, you've got it under control. And so, and you know, the other thing is there's a huge benefit to other people by you doing this. You know, let's say you're going on a hike and you've walked in, which is great, but you know, you meet your friend for a picnic and they rode their quad, but the quad breaks down on the way in there. So, you know, you're there ready to go with your wrench set, ready to tear that thing apart, you know, clean the carburetor, fix whatever's gone wrong, and they're right back up and running. And the best part about that is you're probably tired from your walk. So now you've got a ride back to civilization as well. So it's just a win-win-win for everybody. So wrench set, I would suggest, is a pretty critical part of an EDC loadout. All right, so let's get some of this stuff out of the way. Couple of extra little things here, nothing onerous, okay? But in addition to a wrench, you know, we're talking about what we're going to carry on our person every day. And if you are a gear guy, if you are a preparedness guy that's worth his salt, you know you've got to have a firearm. Okay, so something that's reasonably sized, something that's not too heavy, something that's fairly concealable, I'm sorry. This M&P 9 is a fantastic example. And you know, you're gonna want some extra mags as well. So let's keep that in mind. So, you know, you've got the 9mm covered. I think that's probably, you know, capable of handling most things. But honestly, a 9mm round is a pretty utilitarian round. And, you know, sometimes you want that option to be able to have some real stopping power. Not only that, there are certain guns that we just like more than others. And so, you know, in addition to your 9mm, it may not hurt to carry something else, something, you know, with a little more stopping power. And, you know, I've got to say, there's a part of me that, you know, there's a part of me for which this gun is just a joy. Okay. It's a small Colt Commander, and you know, to have a Colt 1911 is just a dream come true for me, and it just brings a smile to my face to have this around and to be able to carry it. So, you know, that's another great option. Now, the one thing about the 1911 is, you know, they're a little lacking in the, you know, capacity department, so you're going to want a couple of extra mags for that as well. The only other issue here that really isn't well covered is the fact that both of these firearms, they can get a little costly to shoot. So if you're a person who likes shooting and likes to go to the range with your buddies and blow off some steam in the middle of the day the way I do, you may want another option as well. So this 2245 really gets that done because you can shoot this all day and you haven't spent any money, not to mention the fact that a box of 22 shells doesn't take up any space in your pocket either. So again, a firearm is a fantastic option. Not only is it practical, but it's highly useful, especially should things ever start to go just a little bit bad. So knowing you've got the confidence of having that firearm with you is an absolutely key aspect to EDC, and really something that anyone who's serious is going to have. Now, of course, you're also going to have a cell phone, and that's going to be just a standard thing for pretty much all of us. Now, the thing about a cell phone is they tend to want to die all the time. So a charger is an absolute must. And in case there's no power, you definitely want the backup charger as well. That is, a portable battery pack. And honestly, they take the same cord anyway, so it's not really a big deal to have both of those options with you. Now, if you're like me, you do a lot of reading. I definitely do a lot of reading. And so in addition to my cell phone, that's a little small, I like to also have a tablet. That way, I've got something a little more book size. It's a little more comfortable to read on. And if I really want to get some extra work done, which I often do, and I know many of you, want to be efficient in your day as well. So a backup keyboard for that to really turn it into, on-the-go computing is pretty much a must-have. Otherwise, who knows? I mean, you might have a great idea for a book, or, I'm a preacher, I got a sermon idea, got to get that thing typed out, you got to send a long email. You're going to want that keyboard to make sure that you can really up your effectiveness and your efficiency through the day. So kind of just a critical piece there of your EDC loadout. Now, I don't always carry a first aid kit, but I do always carry a few Band-Aids. And so, I can't tell you how many times my kids cut themselves. The other day, my son ran through a thorn bush, cuts all over the place, a few little Band-Aids, and it fixed them right up. So I think we're doing pretty well here. But one of the things that we all know, the ABCs of survival, one of the things you just cannot live without is water. So a good water bottle, one that is comfortable to carry around, one that carries enough water to keep you going for a day or so, I think fits really well with all the other things that we've kind of amassed here so far. And along with that, you can use the water, we've got some Band-Aids, some things to clean up a little bit as well. Baby wipes work well. Kleenexes, maybe not so much. These are a nice balance. Some good Royale napkins will allow you to, have the durability of something that can actually clean up a bit of a mess. And also if you use your water bottle, get that wet. Now you can do some cleaning. Whatever you need to do is all taken care of. Now, I think we're doing pretty well so far. But the honest truth is that all of these things need some maintenance, and you really never know what's going to happen in a given day. So a torque set, and maybe, a backup torque set, just in case you break off one of the heads there, is certainly worth having as well. And it's something that I try to do whenever I can, is to keep those torque sets on hand and available. One thing I overlooked here, we were talking about chargers. Sometimes chargers take different things. It's really important that you have a different charger for every single item you're carrying, and make sure that they're all with you at all times, because, right, who knows, if your cell phone breaks down, your cell phone battery dies and you're charging it and you need a light in the meantime, and that light's not charged, you better make sure that you've at least got that option to go ahead and get that charged up for you. Now, thinking of maintenance, a good sharpening setup is pretty critical, along with a strop. I mean, really, look, any of us who are serious about knives, we know you're not done sharpening your knife unless you've really stropped it and run it through the compounds to get that really, really nice polished edge that just pops hair. And so, and honestly, this is a pretty lightweight little unit here, this little strop. So to me, it's well worth, having that extra utility. And sometimes maybe you could even forego the full-on sharpening system and just use the strop if you haven't let your knife get too far along in terms of how dull it is. So that may be a way that you can lighten your load just a little bit, is to keep the strop there and just pay close attention to your knife and not let it get so far gone that you have any problems with that. while we're talking about, maintenance and the possibility of having issues, all those folders have that one inherent weakness, and that is, of course, the fact that they fold, right? They're broken in the middle, and so a fixed blade is pretty much necessary at this point. I mean, you really can't be taking the risk that your folder fails and your backup folder fails and someone borrowed your other folder. And so it's important to have that extra option to make sure that, you're not going to be stuck in a lurch without a knife to do the jobs that you really, really need to do. Now, a couple other things here that are pretty lightweight and not too problematic. A flash drive, whether, one, you can save some software on here that allows you to get extra work done wherever you are, but also I can't tell you how many times in the day I need to print something, or someone says, hey, I've got a picture for you, or something like that, and rather than have to have them email it or whatever, you can just go, hey man, here's my flash drive, pop it on there, and we should be good to go. Thinking of those extra little things, a lighter is definitely a must-have at this point, and I think we had a lighter on there, but I didn't actually mention it. If things really get problematic, one of the things, you may need shelter, or if it's a, WROL situation without rule of law, man, you got to make sure that if you take somebody hostage, or, you take somebody prisoner, you stop someone from threatening your life and you want to secure them for later law enforcement. I think that's the best way to phrase that. You want to make sure you've got the ability to tie them up. You may need to tie the doors shut on your car if they break. You may need to tie down a load to your roof or whatever. And so, again, great option. Even this, you can use this to sort of form a makeshift harness, and a lot of the things we've been looking at have clips and loops. This gun has a nice hole there in the trigger. What you can do is just run that paracord right through, wrap it around your waist, tie it off, and you're good to go. All right, one last point here, and that is that a good pair of sunglasses is pretty much a necessity. Whether it's a cold, windy day and you want to keep the snow out of your eyes, you want to avoid snow blindness, or whether it's just a hot, sunny day, could be dusty, could be you're working and there's some sawdust floating around. So important to protect your eyesight. It's pretty much the most valuable asset that we have. Now, I have thought a lot about my carry systems here and the best way to move around with this kind of stuff. By the way, there was one extra thing that I had here, and I've been toying with this one. So I'm going to show it to you, and you guys can decide. All right, here is a Mossberg 500. I guess this is maybe the 590. This is a modular one, and I've got this set up with the shorter barrel in it, which is awesome because, as an EDC item, you want to keep things nice and compact and pared down. So by putting on the short barrel, you've really allowed yourself to have a little bit of extra room for, whatever else you may need to add to this. Now, we've talked about a lot of good stuff, and I think almost all of it can be absolutely justified from a preparedness standpoint. Really, you should not be leaving the house without pretty well every single piece that we've talked about here. The challenge can be carrying it. A good pair of cargo pants will definitely go a long way in helping. A jacket with some jacket pockets, maybe, the front pocket on your dress shirt. But I think, I've looked around at a lot of tactical belts, and one I've come across that looks really, really perfect for everything that we have talked about here. It's comfortable, it's lightweight, it has a ton of pocket space, and I mean a ton of pocket space. Pretty much everything here on this table can slip very, very comfortably right into these pockets. Okay, this is this is a DeWalt tactical utility belt, and it can really carry a lot of weight. And look, guys wear this all day long, hard at work, and it doesn't cause them a bit of problem. And so I feel like, this is a perfect solution. The only challenge I found with this is getting in and out of the car can be a little sketchy, but with some practice, and if you kind of lift one leg properly and kind of get the pouch to balance on it, you're pretty well good to go. You can hop in and out of a car fairly comfortably with this and not have too much of a problem. So I'm going to get this out of the way and sort of wrap things up here by saying, you know, when you start thinking of all the things that could possibly potentially happen in a given day, the number of eventualities and the number of solutions needed for all of those eventualities is not reasonable for anyone to carry with them all the time, okay? It just isn't. And so what we all need to do, I think, is take a deep breath, make sure that we're not going overkill on our EDC items, all right? Yeah, sometimes I will say, sometimes I enjoy going a little bit overkill. I'll carry a second knife if the one I'm carrying is a little more expensive. I may carry a fixed blade on a given day. Some paracord. I don't normally keep paracord in my pocket, but you know, here's what I'm suggesting, guys. Figure out what you're going to be doing on any given day. Figure out what's likely to happen to you, okay? If it's the middle of summer, you probably don't need a pair of snow pants and a winter coat. The likelihood that you need that is very, very low, all right? On the other hand, if it's the middle of winter, you know, maybe you can pare down a little bit on, you know, sun protection, all right? So, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'd love to hear your comments down below about what you really carry and about the number of items you actually regularly EDC. Do you carry 3 items? Do you carry 5 items? What's your magic number? And how does your loadout look? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll talk to you soon.